we do is normally kind of go through this, and then that way you guys can talk to each other afterwards, and we're going to talk a little bit on a topic. And here's the topic I suggest, based on who's in the room. I suggest we talk a little bit about how to find deals, because that's always something that people are interested in, right? And then the second thing is a little bit about how to run a business, how to find deals, how to build a business that works for you instead of you working in it, right? Because the problem with the entrepreneur many times is that they get stuck in the business doing everything, and they get exhausted. And the goal is a business should create freedom for you, as opposed to you constantly working in the business. And it takes a little bit of a mind switch. And so we're going to talk about what that mind switch looks like, right?
Yeah.
So
I also want to say, I want to, kind of like give you a little bit of introduction of why I am focusing on women and why I'm doing this specifically to empower women. It's not only to empower women, but I think, or at least in my experience, Rob knows my story, and pretty much many people here do too. And real estate investment kind of completely changed my approach to life. I've had, I have I have a little daughter, and that's one of the things that I'm always trying to empower her. It's not only women, but everything that I do is also, thinking about the next generation, how we can kind of like build certain things, because I think women in general are very overwhelmed to approach certain business, and real estate investment is definitely one of them. And it's a great tool to to fund your life and to do many other things that you want to do. I approached CAZA because their values and their community building resonate completely with what I want to do, what I want to do in life. One of the big things that I want to do in life is build a big community of women who support each other, because that's a very kind of feminine thing to do. We need each other. So in order to actually grow personally, financially, and even as mothers or as friends, women throughout history have made communities. That's where all our communities are based on. It's women who make communities. So when I saw, of course, I've been familiar with what Rob has been doing all these years. That's what it is. It's basically just like getting to know each other, and many businesses have happened between people who are in Rob's group, including me. Like that big deal that I made, the buyer that I bought that bought the property, I found him on the GRID community. So I think one of the things that has helped me a lot, of course, throughout my whole story, are my friends. So thank God I have them. I'm super grateful because I really feel super lucky because I have them. And I don't think I would have been able to go through many things that I've gone without them. So I think one of my priorities in life is building this community, building a big community of people who trust each other, and not only necessarily have to make business together. I mean, of course, that's what the point is, but it's about friendship and about like really trusting each other, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have the privilege of having done this now since 2006, and so I own a construction company with somebody that was in this room, was in the room, he was in the audience for about a year, and he was like this really smart guy. And then one day he approached me and said, "Hey, I want to get into business with you," right? Jessica, who helped me build GRID, and I consider my integrator for GRID, she's my business partner. She came from the room as well, right? And more than 50% of the people that are in our organization on my team all started in this room, right? People always ask me, why was I such a fan, or why am I such a fan of building community? Because I found partners, I've found investors, I found clients, and so I just want to always lead, and GRID's mission is always coming from contribution and just giving. And when you do that, good things happen, right? And that will happen for you as a member of the community. If you always lead with giving and never lead with asking, but always lead with giving, good things happen, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what makes GRID uniquely different than maybe some other REIAs that are out there. It's like, hey, listen, giver's gain. If you guys haven't read the book, The Go-Giver, I encourage you to go read the book, The Go-Giver. Great book to read, right? That book is a great book to just build a business in general, right? And so, Isabel, thank you for sharing your why.
So,
right?
and also, one thing, I want to thank you, all of you, for being here, because it's a privilege to me to know you and to meet you. And if you ever need help with anything, just don't hesitate to ask. I'm here, I'm available all the time, and I'm really happy to help. I love sharing whatever I know.
And what I'm going to say is, remember, this is your community, and so you need to have also a partner in helping you run this community, right? So one of the things is there's opportunity, just like Mark decided to step up and be my business partner, and then we've run our community for the last, since 2000. I think he started in 2008 with me. Right?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, 2008. And he just celebrated his 15 years, which is like crazy, right? Like, how is that even possible? I feel like I just started, right? And I just started. So part of this is, I guess what I'm saying to those in the room is that there's also an opportunity to lead, right? Somebody can step up and say, hey, I want to help you run and organize and promote and get the word out, because the bigger the network is, the bigger this community is, the more opportunity there is for every one of you in here, right? If it stays small, it's not a big opportunity. But if it gets big, it's a big opportunity. And somebody will raise their hand and decide they want to lead, and they can help Isabel lead, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about business. Let's get down to it, right? The number one question people typically have, even whether they're experienced or not experienced, is how do I win more opportunities, or how do I actually get investment deals? Okay, so I'm going to walk through a framework that I've used that can be used in any business, right? Digital marketing business, your blog business, like any business, right? And that's what I call the zone selling and marketing system. So zone, right? So zone is just an acronym. It's a way that I focus my mind on how to actually get business. And it stands for zero in on your target market, which is essentially pick your avatar, right? So you can't be all things to all people. You have to decide. Another way to put it is, who do you want to be the superhero to, right? So Dan Sullivan, very famous writer, wrote the book Who Not How, which I recommend you read, or 10X is easier than 2X, another great book, right? But he said, who do you want to be the superhero to? So your blog wants to be the superhero to somebody who's got their MD, right? And you're going to help them become financially independent. That's what it sounded like to me, right? Basically. At least from the website, right? And so she picked her niche, right? And you probably heard the riches are in the niches, right? You cannot go to an investment group and say, I'm a real estate investor. Like that is no number one. What you need to say, you got to be very specific. Hey, I'm an investor that buys properties in McLean, and what I do is I buy those properties and I normally wholesale them to other rehabbers. She gets very specific about who she is and who she represents, right? And that goes for anything. If you're gonna be baking in the back, right? You're like, hey, this is what I focus on. The number one mistake people make is like, I do cupcakes, and I do weddings, and I do kids' birthdays, and I do, right? There will be like, you even have to focus in and say, we only do cupcakes for for this, or we only do wedding cakes, or we only, like, you have to get specific. So Z and zone is zero in on your target market, right? O is once you've picked the avatar, is the own the mind share of that market, right? So how do you own the mind share of the market, Isabel? Like if you're picking a zone, like you want to own the mind share of a market, first thing you might do is say, there's only 3 ways, by the way, to get business, right? 3 ways. Everybody know the 3 ways to get business? You got to prospect for it, number 1. That's free, but takes time and takes skill. So always recommend everybody to prospect first. So Roya, what did I tell you? Build a list, call the list. Build a list, call the list, right? You have to prospect first, then you network. That's what you guys are doing in here right now. Networking is super powerful. And then the 3rd is market. And you always do marketing at the end because it costs you money. And when you're a brand new investor, you don't have any money, right? What you need to do is you need to lead with revenue, right? And leading with revenue is cold outreach. To speak in Alex Hermosi's language, these guys in the back probably know who Alex is, right? It's cold outreach, right? You're gonna start with cold outreach. And then you'll move into digital and you'll do all the rest, right? But when you know your avatar, by the way, when you know the avatar, you have to build marketing for that avatar. So like she built a blog that specifically catered to her, like, her avatar. Like she built a blog that specifically talked to the person she wants to talk to. If you're going to market for deals in McLean, you're going to build a website that specifically targets home sellers in McLean. Like think about selling your McLean home, right? This is how we can buy them cash as is. Yes.
And then you expand?
What's that?
And then you can expand, or you just
do you,
stick to what you do?
you do it well actually.
So the truth is, you don't need to expand. If you dominate the niche so well, all the money you ever want is in that niche.
Right, I'm gonna say yes to that, because before when I just had some rentals and I was kind of passively a little bit investing, I had a farmer's market business that did baking and pickles. That's what we did. And we were at 2 farmers markets and we made, like 50 grand a year just doing that in the summers with my kids. It was like, that's what we did to teach them about businesses and capitalism. It was like their project. So you don't. If you dominate the market, you don't.
Yeah, you don't need to. Now you can.
But you
not-
can.
Let me put you as an
Yes, and
example,
the
right?
answer is, let me just say, like I'm going to ask, yes, to be a powerful salesperson, to be a powerful business owner, you're going to say, this is who I serve, right? And it's okay if you don't come, but the people that I serve, like, you are well taken care of. So the number one thing that everybody always worries about is like, I want to be broad because I don't want to lose clients. That's how you stay poor.
Let me put you as an example actually, because you
That's
started making the cakes. You know exactly who you wanted to sell them to. It was birthday cakes for children, or not birthday, but party cakes, which would be like baptism. So you know exactly who your avatar is. It's the moms or the families or the kids that are celebrating something. So you know who it is. Then you started kind of letting yourself known within the groups of people, groups of people in Bethesda, or groups of people, because it was back when you were in Bethesda. But you started like with the groups of moms. That's how we have her in the room as well. and then you started doing it on Instagram as well. So that you did it like kind of organically, but it's exactly what Rob is talking about. It's just the right path.
Now what I will say, because if you want to be very ambitious, right, what companies do is eventually they say, okay, we dominated this section of the market, and now what we're going to do is open up a new vertical that's going to be led by somebody else, okay? And that's all they're going to focus on. So you notice within even technology companies, there's product lines, and there's typically product heads of those lines, right? And so there's a really good book. I'm going to encourage all of you that are building businesses, especially you guys doing the marketing stuff. It's called Built to Sell. In the story, is of this marketing generalist who was always felt like he was barely making payroll, he was stretched, he didn't like his business, he wanted to sell his business, and it's a story that talks about this concept. It's really cool. He meets this wiser mentor that owns lots of businesses, but the guy always has free time, is always off, and the one business owner can't figure out, like, how is it this guy is so wealthy, right? And he owns all these businesses, but I never see him working, right? Read the book, and then it'll change your mind a little bit about how do you actually expand and grow your business. Doesn't mean you can't be ambitious. Like, I own multiple businesses, but I don't run them, right? But I started with one business that just kicked ass first, and then I earned the right to do the next one, right? So owning the mind share of the market is the second thing in Zone. So as a real estate entrepreneur, if you want to own the mind share of McLean, so I'm going to give you exactly the playbook, right? And what I told Roya, this is how you find deals, okay? It is, Roya, drive through neighborhoods and look at all the, you'll find in every neighborhood a little ugly duckling. It needs a little bit of work. The grass is a little high, the outside needs a little paint, the roof looks a little old, and you're gonna write that down on a list. And you're gonna start building a list. And you're gonna get, maybe in McLean, 100 houses that look like they need work, or 150 or 200. Build a list, okay? That discipline, by the way, most entrepreneurs, most people that I tell go build a list, fail at doing that step. They fail at that step. Why do you think they fail at that step?
It's a really hard thing to do.
Is it lazy?
What's that?
You're lazy?
There's a, yes. So the answer is yes, they are lazy, right? That meaning sometimes they're distracted. Does that make sense? There's always another shiny object, or somebody else told them to do something else. So that's one. Two, it's not easy
It's
to
hard
do.
to do that, but you're right. That's how you build your portfolio. I mean, that's how I built my houses. I just found them. I went and drove around.
Want to drive around, right?
Yeah.
So it is hard because think of like a battle plan. Like if you look at McLean and you look at all the streets in McLean, you could literally say, hey, I'm gonna drive through all the streets in McLean and make sure that I'm covering every geographic area in McLean, go through all of McLean, every street, write down every address that looks like it needs a home, which requires a little discipline. And then you have to skip trace that, right? You have to find the phone numbers. So I'm gonna give you a software tool, it's called Batch Leads, right? Batch Leads, you can literally take that list, upload it into their software, and what it will do is it will spit out all the phone numbers, right? Now it's gonna cost a little money, but it'll spit out all the phone numbers, the names, maybe how long the person's owned the property. So that's the second step. Build a list, then get the data for the list, right? I gave Roya a free service to go on in the beginning. It's called True People Search, but it's very manual and very slow.
Yeah.
I'd recommend investing in something like Batch Leads, right? Then the third thing that you do is you do the thing that nobody else dares to do. What do you think that is? Call the list. And here's the simple script. I'm going to give you the simple script. And by the way, I taught this to somebody in our community many years ago. Her name is Yukiko. Okay? You know Yukiko? Right?
Wait a second. I think I know her.
Yeah, you probably do. Well,
No, I know. I don't know her from here. Does she live in DC?
she owns property in DC.
Okay. No, I know her from someplace else.
Okay. So
Yeah.
she lives in
No kidding.
she lives in Leesburg. So Yukiko, if we're talking about the same Yukiko,
We might be.
barely speaks English.
That's
You,
the same one.
you do not understand Yukiko. She's very hard to understand.
Yeah.
So, what's up, girl? Good. So, you barely understand her. But she said, okay, well, I'm maybe not the one to call the list, but I'll find somebody to go call the list. So today you can get a virtual assistant to call those lists for $10 an hour, right? Now you gotta coach them and train them on the scripts. And there are companies that will train them already, but you need to coach them a little bit more, and you can listen in on their calls. But here's the script. The script is super easy. You could say, hey Isabel, I noticed that you own this property at 123 Any Street. I work with a group of people that are looking to purchase property in this neighborhood. I'm just curious if you're interested in selling.
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's awesome. Just out of curiosity, if you were to sell, right, when would that be? It sounds like you're happy where you're at.
I don't have any plans of selling.
Okay, they're gonna have to take you out in a box from the house, huh?
I have my feet in front of me.
Okay, I'm just out of curiosity, how long have you lived there?
10 years.
Okay, so you're just gonna retire here, or are you thinking of ever moving to Florida, doing anything like that, or you're completely happy where you're at?
I am happy where I am. I have like the idea of retiring somewhere else, but it's not happening soon.
Okay, if you could wave a magic wand, where would that somewhere else be?
Thailand.
Thailand, okay, cool, sounds great. Sounds great. So anyhow, the idea is like to just ask, and some people will say, no, I'm not interested, right? But that's okay. What you're doing is you're now, you take that list and you put it into a database, and then you just start communicating with people. Because at some point, Isabel will change her mind. Why? Because life happens. Somebody gets sick, somebody has a heart attack, somebody's parent passes away, somebody gets a divorce. Life happens, right? So the first thing I always teach is build a list, then you call the list. Then once you've called the list, you've earned the right to market to the list. So then you market to the list. And you just send a postcard or a letter once a month, right? That little basic formula that I just gave you will make you millions of dollars. But 9 out of 10 will not do it. Because it requires a certain level of discipline, and you don't believe that it could be that easy. But that's how easy it is. So the person that actually can build a system and not be like, squirrel, let me do that, or let me do this. The person that can stay focused on build a list, call the list, market to the list, and you never stop marketing to the list, wins in any business. And by the way, the bigger your list is, the more money you make. So that's why in marketing, they're always like, build a list, build a big list, and then market to that list over and over and over and over again. With using tech today, you can retarget, you can do all sorts of stuff. But don't get fancy and cute yet. You gotta do something as simple as just like, build a list, call the list, and then market to the list. So, Vistaprint is very easy to send postcards or even letters. That's one. Anybody else have another one in here that they've used?
I used to use something else.
So part of, yeah, and there's another one that we've used, I forget. Yellowletters.com is another one. By the way, a simple yellow letter, it's just like, Isabel, are you interested in selling your house? We buy properties in as-is condition, close it at a time that's convenient for you. Call today. That's the magic
And
thing.
you will think that's not, that wouldn't make any money. It does. It's just a little, could be a post-it.
Yeah.
Like one of those big post-its that are like this big. Just like write it down, just put it on there.
But you want to know what the number one mistake somebody makes? So they call the list, right? So they build a list, they call the list, then they market to the list, and then what happens?
They drop the ball.
They stop. And you can never stop. Once you've committed to your zone area, once you've committed to your target, you can never stop. You're like, I'm gonna be so omnipresent, because remember, O is about owning the mind share of the market. You're gonna be so omnipresent that nobody else, they're not gonna even think of anybody else. You are the only brand, because each one of you is a brand. You're the only brand in their mind, because you've just been communicating month in, out, month in, month out. So if you are going to spend money, you need to spend money at a budget that you can afford for an extended period of time before seeing any results. Because it will take you, like prospecting is the fastest way to get a deal. Like right now, Mike Capello, if any of you have seen him in my GRID group, right? Like he's hosting a lot of like wholesaling training. Mike will buy 3 houses a month just from prospecting, right? And we know that it's 100 calls, it's 10 appointments, and normally resulting in like 1 closed transaction, and that is 100 pre-foreclosure calls. And he just got just gonna call 100 pre-foreclosures, right? And the conversation, and by the way, the reason why don't we market to that list, right? We don't market to that list because what happens when you haven't been paying your bills?
Oh, you don't open up your mail.
You don't open up your mail. You might get a postcard, right? But the other thing is, like, sometimes people just shut down, completely shut down. And we need to reach them quickly. So he either door knocks or he calls. And there's also a short window. Like, these foreclosures are typically like 45 days out. So like, we might start marketing to the list. Remember I said you never want to stop marketing? Well, they might lose their house 45 days down the road. Right.
Also, that's another thing. It's like you're not only just like want to get the deal. There's a lot of ways to help people who are in that situation. It's not only that you're kind of like the deal's gonna be for you. It's more like there's a lot of creative ways that you can help people in that situation.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Mike is so good because he leads with a caring heart, right? So, yes, he wants to make money, and he wants to help somebody out of a really messy, bad situation, right? And so he calls, and people can sense it when they meet with him. Like, when you meet somebody and you're like, okay, I feel something here, and it's positive. Or you meet with somebody and you're like, I don't feel good, right? We know, right? And so he just leads with a caring heart, and he does really well with it, right? By the way, I taught Mike this strategy because Mike was scattered in his thinking. Kind of like you, Roya, when you were like, I'm looking in Bowie, and I'm looking in Arlington, and I'm looking in DC, and I'm looking in Reston. I'm like, you will never get anything that way. You gotta zone the market, right? Own the mind share by prospecting, networking, and marketing. Now, networking is what you guys are doing in here. So if I was to network with people in McLean, right, to find deals, because that's what you're doing, I would attend networking events and I'd say, I buy properties in McLean. And then I would try to go where divorce attorneys go in McLean, or probate attorneys in McLean, or contractors in McLean. So her deal came from a contractor, right? She built a relationship with a contractor. That contractor called her because she understood value-ish in that area. She was like, I think this is a deal, right? So your database, right?
It was very clear.
It was clear it was a deal, right? Your database is who you'll network with. Right? So imagine if you, going back to Roya as an example, imagine that you build a database that has real estate agents in that database, contractors in McLean in that database, so real estate agents in McLean in that database, contractors from McLean in that database, attorneys from McLean in that database, and all of them know that you buy real estate, Roya, right? And every month they get an email from you that says, Roya did it again, or Roya bought another one. Like, if you just remember, Roya bought another one, Roya bought another one, Roya bought another one, Roya bought another one. Do you see the power of that? So when somebody goes to sell, they're like, Roya, because she'll buy another one.
But do you lie?
No.
No, you tell the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not, no, you tell the truth. So what has to happen is, here's the thing, your first deal, you have to do everything you can to get your first deal, right? Like, I'll give you an example, like if you're an agent, you do everything you can to get that first listing. But once you have that first listing, you're gonna promote it to everybody because one gets you another one, right? It's the same thing with investments. So what you could do is, you could use that one that you buy, Roya, and you could, or sometimes you might even partner with somebody. And you might say, hey, is it okay if I can partner and say, hey, I'll bring you a deal. I see you just bought a property in McLean. I'll bring you another deal in McLean if I can leverage the fact that I work with investors to buy properties in McLean. Would that be okay? And use yours as like an example. If you came to me and said that, I'd be like, hell yeah. Because now I know that if you're gonna go market, that you just brought it, got a deal in McLean, that you'll bring me that deal. So I will let you market that. Does that make sense? So you want to try to create social proof every way you can, right? We just did another party. We just did another party. We just did another party, right? Over and over on your Instagram, on emails, like the whole thing. That's how you own the mind share, right? So networking, you're gonna go where people that get into houses go, right? Like there's contractor associations, there's builder associations, there's attorney associations. Go there and network.
And also, it's, I mean, some people, because, this contractor got a certain amount of money from me. So that's the other thing. It's like they have an incentive to bring you the deals because, it's good money. So.
But you have to coach them. You need to coach your hairstylist that you buy properties, the person that does your nails, right? The person that gives you a massage, your doctor. Like everybody should know what you do. Everybody should know what you do. And by the way, the reason why what holds people back is they typically think, well, I'm not worthy, I don't have the money. Everybody's worried about the money. If you find the deal, the money comes. So don't be afraid. And by the way, again, you know us, so we'll give you access to the money. All you have to do is, I represent a group of people that buys properties in this area. Are you thinking about selling? You don't, like if you said, I buy properties cash, that feels really scary, right? But if you said, hey, I work with a group of people that buy properties cash, are you interested in selling? All they heard was, buy my property cash. That's what they heard. So you just say that to feel more authentic. Does that make sense? So owning the mind share, N is nurture and grow your database. So you need a CRM. You just need one. Here's where I find that there's lots of self-employed people that just fall off the rails. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix this. But if you really want to be successful in life, in any business that you build, you need to build a database and you have to feed it. So let's go back to your cupcake example, right? Right, picking on you.
It's okay.
Every person you've ever sold needs to be in a customer relationship management software. Everybody, right? And all of their friends need to be in there, and all of your friends need to be in there. And every month, the bigger that list is, the bigger that database is, and if you're communicating to them every month, the more money you make, right? With targeted emails or phone calls or inviting them to events or whatever it is. But I find that it is incredibly difficult for entrepreneurs to take a piece of a relationship and put them into a computer and put them into your CRM. You just have to figure out a way to do it. The way I did it back in the day was, I hate data entry. But back in the day, everything was business cards, right? So I'd go to networking events, I'd get business cards. And then I would take the picture of the business card and I would send it to my virtual assistant in India. And at $5 an hour, this was a long time ago, I was using virtual assistants. At $5 an hour, they inputted and built my entire database. I don't care how you get it in there, but you have to get it in there.
Also, there's a lot of people who build their business out of social media, and that is great. But that's another thing that I need to just add to that. If you build your business on Instagram, and Instagram goes broke or whatever, there's disappear one thing or the other, you're out of business. So
it's why the influencers started saying, "Hey, text here."
You need to get their information like in your database. You need to get their information, outside of the platform you're using, whatever it is.
And then the E is earn the heart share of the community. Always find a way to give back to the community. Always find a way to create change in your community. So how could you do something in the homeless shelter in McLean, right? There's so many people that actually You know who like many people who end up at homeless shelters are, by any chance? Anybody know?
Veterans.
What's that?
Veterans.
Veterans.
Veterans, yeah, veterans, anybody else?
Well, people who went
Mental health.
So for entrepreneurship, believe it or not, a lot of children.
Yeah.
Why? Domestic abuse. So what happens is moms fleeing, right? And they don't know where to go. Maybe they don't have a support network close by, so they go to a shelter, right? And then sometimes that's like I'm saying leading with heart share, because when you lead with heart share, opportunity also happens, right? Somebody in the shelter could say, Roya buys houses. Maybe she'll buy your house, right? And you can figure out a way to maybe do something that makes sense for all parties, right? So the idea is, if you scatter your energy, you won't ever get any deals. If you focus your energy, you will get deals. And that's what I taught Mike to do. So he wanted us going everywhere, and I said, front royal, we're only gonna go after pre-foreclosures. This is gonna be your script, and there's gonna be a window of 6 months where you feel like you're doing all this work and nothing's happening, and you're gonna lose some faith. I promise you, if you could just push through the other side, the magic's gonna happen. And then he did a deal, and then he did another deal, and then he did another deal, right? And last year we bought 15 in his first full year in the business, right? We made hundreds of thousands of dollars. We bought 8 properties that are all sub 2. That's a different strategy you guys will learn on another night. And I was like, cool, totally works, any business. Recruiting business, agent business, investment business, it's all the same. None of it's different, right? So that's the secret sauce of how to do it. Why don't you think people do it?
They're scared of failure.
Yeah, they're scared of rejection, right? What else?
They don't believe it can be done like that. Their mindset is different.
Yeah.
security.
Yeah. There's this, one, they're not sure that is really the path. But I'm telling you, that is the path, right? They're uncertain, so they're like hesitant.
We're very blessed here in this area that a lot of us have good jobs, and so it's comfortable.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
like to have a job.
One of the wealthiest investors I ever met worked for the federal government, 30 years. He owned 150 houses in Clarendon.
Wow.
Some of the apartment buildings and some of the single family houses. It's crazy.
That's amazing. Sorry.
Amazing. It was crazy. It was crazy.
But he was happy he had health insurance when he retired? Or
Yeah,
is that
and I
what
was
he
like, how
doing?
did you do this, right? His name was Dave. The only reason why I remember their name is because it's my mother and father-in-law's names, right? David and Charlotte Caldwell. And he was coming from his farm in Middleburg. I didn't even know what that meant, but that means money, right? And he was coming from his farm in Middleburg, and I met him at one of his apartment buildings. And his office, he was definitely a do-it-yourselfer. I don't recommend this, I'm not a do-it-yourselfer. But his apartment had every nail and gadget and screw and door. He definitely he enjoyed working on properties, right? He did a lot of the maintenance himself. Probably therapy for him, not therapy for me, right? But therapy for him. And I asked him, how did you do this? And he just said, one property at a time, 40 years. One property at a time. So I challenge all of you, just let me just get my first, right? Let me just get my first property, right? Or let me just have my first conversation with a home seller, even if it doesn't go well. Let me just have a conversation, because that gets you one step closer to actually being able to secure a deal, right? The other reason why the last reason why I think people don't do it, Isabel, what do you think I'm gonna say?
There's a lot of agents now, no? A lot of,
Competition?
No, I think it's that.
No.
No, you said like a lot of patience.
Agents.
Oh.
No, I think it's, people are very easily distracted and they don't focus on doing it consistently. I think what happens is they do something for a little bit of time, they don't feel like they're getting any progress, so they move to something else. And then they move to something else. And then they move to something else. Yeah, the squirrel syndrome. So the only way to do it is by actually focusing. And by the way, does this help with our focus?
Not so much.
No. We're in an environment where we're almost rewarded for not having focus. So the entrepreneur that can focus on an area, a territory, a vertical, wins everything, right? It's just focus. So that's the secret to any business, right? Cold outreach, then it's networking, then it's marketing, right? And if you could just do that in one particular zone, you win. Literally, we don't have to teach anything else. Actually, the next thing that people need to know, and I'll kind of finish here, let you guys network with each other. The next thing is you need to understand the basic mechanics of real estate investing. It's not complicated. I just showed you how to get deals, but then you're like, okay, but what is a deal? So you need to understand value. So who owns a house in here? Raise your hand. Okay. I bet you know the value of your neighbor's homes, your home and your neighbor's homes. Why is that? Why do you know the value of your house and your neighbor's house? Go ahead.
Because you want to see how much yours could sell for if you want to go to sell it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
But why? Why? Like, why are you looking?
I feel like it's just a sense of pride as well.
You understand the value of your neighbor because it matters to you.
Yeah.
It's
Because
just money.
you wanna know what yours is
It's your
gonna
money.
be worth.
Yeah.
You have money there.
Yeah, it's your so think of your neighborhood as that's like your territory. Like you know what value is because you pay attention to that street or that community, right? Well, when I say go learn an area, that's what I'm telling you to go do. Same way that you would instantly say, oh, this is what the value is of my house. That's what you would say for Homes McLean. You would be like, I know what houses on street, like when a seller calls you and says, I live on Youngblood. Do you know where Youngblood is in McLean?
I think so, yeah.
I live on Youngblood, right? That's where I owned my McLean house back in the day, which I regret selling. I live on Youngblood, and you would instantly know, like, right then, okay, these are single family houses. Like if somebody called me and said, I live in Lake Ann in the Heron House, I would know, oh, that's a condo building, because it's my zone, it's my target. So you need to learn values in your zone better than anybody else, so that when opportunity presents itself, you can move quickly. And one of the things I was worried about with Isabel, and why I was like, you have to go put this under contract now, was because if she didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it like that.
Yeah. And actually that day, I was like, I'm gonna buy this now. You know, and I was having that negotiation, and and I said we have to close it today. And then for some reason I went for the next morning, and then she told me, well, there's people coming. I'm like, no, I'm walking. If there are people coming, I'm walking. And she's like, no. So
Yeah.
so
It worked out for you.
it worked out.
Yeah, you, time kills all deals.
Yeah.
It just does. So if you can get there fast, if you can add value, if you can make an offer, you have a higher likelihood of winning, right? Go ahead.
No, I just finished because I want to say something before we.
Okay.
Okay, so basically what this community is gonna be is, I'm gonna have, people coming to add value and to
Speakers.
teach us what different strategies on real estate. And obviously the idea is for you to learn that, but also and this I can emphasize this enough, is for you to know each other and to actually, start, building your community. That's the main point of all this.
And by the way, one of the things that we did in my community was, and there was people in the group that had experience in, let's say, syndications, right? Like she knows how to do syndications. I'd be like, let's put you in the hot seat. How'd you do your first syndication, right? Tell me about it. Why did you become a limited partner? And then that way the group learns through somebody that's in the group, right? And it doesn't seem like, well, it's like some professional speaker. It's like us in the room. And then we would celebrate successes of people that were doing deals in the room. So So Yukiko, to go back to my friend who didn't speak any English at all, like, she just started saying, I did a deal. Right? Yeah.
I'm gonna show you.
Yeah, yeah. So if you have a
I have a
picture,
picture of her,
yeah. And I did a deal, right? And I was like, okay, tell me about the deal. She'd tell me about the deal. I'm like, damn, that was a good deal. And then she did another deal, and then another deal, and then she's like, I think I'm going to buy a hotel. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, and then storage units. So like, she kept growing as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. And she didn't take the fact that she was like, I mean, when I tell you it is hard to understand Yukiko, it's hard to understand Yukiko, right? But then she started bringing her daughter to the GRID meetings. And then her daughter started looking
Translates.
well, no, just her daughter started looking for deals in Richmond, right? So, very cool to see that transformation happen, right? And you'll see that transformation here in this room. And you probably, I don't know if this will be your final location, you'll probably have other locations. We need a place that has air conditioning, because it's hot.
Yeah, it's
right?
hot.
But, you know, you'll end up finding your hub spot.
Yeah,
Right.
I will, just trust
Yeah.
me.
And then you'll put people in the hot seat,
Mhm.
and you will learn not only about real estate investing, but about business building. Because this is what we're really talking about, is building businesses, right?
And I need to say in that regards is
This is my
that
daughter, sorry.
my point of doing this is to help you guys make that, you know, like this, learn about business building, but in a very feminine way. That's, I mean, I've been, you know, learning so much about that. And again, it's very overwhelming for us sometimes. So I want to, you know, kind of like pour out to you guys everything that I know in that regards, because I really think that I can help, and if I can help as much people as I can, it will be amazing to me. So
I'm just gonna say this because maybe you guys have this experience, but I am the one who started my business, and I divorced my husband, and my husband didn't want any of the real estate, which is his loss. But my new husband's very good with numbers. He's excellent in underwriting, and that's good. But when I talk to a man about a deal or whatever we're doing, he really thinks that it's my husband's business. Drives me nuts. Drives me up a wall, and I'm like, I actually called somebody I wanted to talk to that lives in the DMV, and I wanted to network with them. He's in another group. And I called him, and the first thing he said to me was, oh, I thought I was going to talk to Tom. And I said, no, I think Tom is at work. Right? And it drives me nuts. So I had to come to this.
So yeah, that's, you know, I mean, through a lot of things, I've learned a lot about how to do it the feminine way, and also because we live in a very like male-dominated society, and of course male-dominated industry. This one is a very male-dominated industry. There are many ways
There's
to do
more
it.
women real estate agents than there are men, but investing is different, yeah.
Yeah.
Educate me.
No, I'm just saying I mean, we're not used to bring certain feminine values to business, and there's a lot of there's a lot of things that can be done not in a very straight way that we're used to.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So before we go to network, I brought Prosecco because I'm celebrating that we're
Are you serious?
what do you think? I never joke with that.
I know.
I like her.